Football Friday, Sal Capaccio joining us on the Western Hotline. It is Jeremy and Joe. Good morning. Owen Parker is here. Dan Dale producing with you on a Friday. TGIF and TG, the bye week is over, and we're on to regular football, too. I don't know the letters for that.
I mean, it's our first normal football Friday since the New England week, right?
Right, because
Atlanta was
Monday
a Monday.
night,
You get the bye week.
we get a Sunday 1 o'clock game on the road.
You know, we mentioned, Sal actually mentioned this, I think, earlier in the week. The normalized schedule coming up, a lot of Sundays, all going to be like 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, except that Houston game. But, Sal, I don't know if you've looked this deep into it. What did we find? There's a game late in the year. Is it Bills-Bucks? No, Bills
Patriots.
The Bills at New England game
Could be flexed to Monday Night Football.
because there's a bad, the Dolphins are in it. There's like a bad Monday night game, and they have flex scheduling that late in the season.
Yeah, it's Dolphins-Steelers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the Steelers are strong enough to keep there no matter what.
Because Miami's going to be such a
right, because
disaster.
everyone would say the Cowboys do not get flexed out. I don't know about the Steelers. We have to see about that. Good morning, Sal.
Yeah.
Good morning. I just, when's the last time do we know of, and I'm not saying it hasn't happened, I don't know, that two teams played primetime in the same season twice.
Right.
Good question.
A game. I don't know if the league would do that. They already played Sunday night against each other.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or you might have.
Wait a minute. When the Bills and Dolphins played in Week 18, did they play primetime earlier in the year? Because that got flexed.
That was 2022, I believe, or 2023?
2023, right? Yeah, it comes down to the final game.
Let me look up real quick. So 2020. No, it was a. Okay, that was a. Okay, let's go back to the one
it's okay.
before that.
I've got
that
it.
Year.
It was not a night game.
It was a 1 o'clock game. It was the hot game they played that year.
Gotcha.
No. Oh, okay. No, I have the 2023. The funny thing is, that's the Dorsey year. They fire Dorsey, and they come back to win the division in a game that's flexed in at night in Miami.
Okay.
So it's kind of funny to think about. When did they need to go to Miami in primetime? The same year they beat them 48-20, and the offensive coordinator got fired a couple weeks later after what was such a high.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think one way or another, or maybe it's a 4:25 game later on in the year because that's a big window too. Because man,
yes,
the idea that Bills Patriots game wouldn't be massive, I think, is a strong underdog. Most outcomes, I think Bills at Patriots is going to be a huge game.
I would say this, though. Look around the board, too. Are there any others? Chargers, Chiefs is that week as well, but they've already also played, obviously, in a primetime game. Just looking to see. Lions, Rams is a game that weekend. Now, that's already that would probably be protected. It looks like that's already a national window for 425. So, yeah, it's possible.
Maybe there's a chance.
Yeah, I thought about that, too. The possibility of a flex game later in the year could happen. But in the meantime, until that happens, it's basically
Sundays.
Sundays, except for one Thursday game the week before Thanksgiving.
Right. You're right, though. It is a great week. Green Bay, Denver, Indy, Seattle, and in addition to Bills, Patriots. Anyway, that's December 14th. We got time to get there. Sal, we've got some injuries to watch today. Sean McDermott, when you speak with him, we'll see if he rules anybody out of this game. The limited players are the ones, of course, we're thinking about the most here, right? We're thinking about Dalton Kincaid, Curtis Samuel, among others. So let's get to the injury report, the Barnes Firm injury report, brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured. For help, call 1-800-8-million. What names are we really most keyed on today? Is it those two? Are there any more?
I think the five guys who are limited are the ones we're really watching because several of them did not play against the Atlanta Falcons. Dalton Kincaid, two of them, Dalton Kincaid and Curtis Samuel, because Matt Milano as well. Matt Milano didn't play. So I think those are the three guys. Terrell Bernard did, but when Sean McDermott spoke earlier in the week, he termed all these guys basically day to day. When you say day to day, they practice all week. They're limited. I think it's trending well. So Terrell Bernard, Dalton Kincaid, Matt Milano, Curtis Samuel, all limited. Now, Max Hairston is on the injury report as limited because the rule a couple years ago was changed. Once a guy becomes designated to return, you have to start listing him on the injury report no matter what until he's actually on the roster. I mean, that is a guy that we'll be asking about today, and I'll be asking, what is his status? Is it possible he could play this weekend? I mean, I don't think so. That would be really interesting if all of a sudden we're if you hear Sean McDermott on the Extra Points show say, it's possible, or he won't rule out the fact that Max Hairston could play, I think that's interesting, and that'd be notable because he's been practicing only for a week. I think it's a bit too early for that, but we'll see. And then I wouldn't be surprised if he already rules out Daquan Jones, Joshua Palmer, and Taylor Rapp. None of them have practiced yet this week. And in fact, Jones and Palmer, not only did he call week to week, but he didn't even rule out them going on IR when asked about it.
Do you think, Sal, with the two linebackers being, dealing with something here but limited, so maybe they play, this is a team that can run the ball in Carolina. What do you think Shaq Thompson's role is here? Like, could you see him, even if it maybe is like injury related, like, hey, maybe we want to protect Milano a little bit. I doubt Bernard would be limited at all, but could you see Thompson playing a majority of the snaps, even with both of those two linebackers being back in the lineup, if they are?
I think it really would just depend on the personnel usage by the Panthers. I don't think it's this team runs the ball, so we're going to put Shaq Thompson on the field. You mean in addition, like a third linebacker, Joe, or in place of somebody?
I guess even for just this week, like whether it's because of Thompson's play or because of Milano's injury, that Thompson would be the guy that would be out there every down, and Milano would be the one that'd be in and out based on packages.
I don't think so. I think if Milano and Bernard are both healthy, they're playing, and they're your two linebackers. That's it. Like that's to me. I don't think you're subbing them in and out. Those are your 3-down linebackers. Mm-hmm. They're playing middle. They're playing weak. I think it only comes down to what personnel you have outside of them, which is either it's going to be nickel or it's going to be a third linebacker. And in that case, you're probably mostly looking at Tarum Johnson, obviously at nickel, and then Shaq Thompson. But I do want to throw in here that Michael Hoyt is back, and I think Michael Hoyt becomes interesting here because I don't think right away you're seeing him as a third linebacker, but I do think he gives you options if you want to have an extra guy on the field to help stop the run, and you want to kind of form it and shape it in a different way. You could do that. He doesn't have to be necessarily a stand-up defensive end, which he is. I'm looking right now. Let's see how much 12 personnel the Carolina Panthers run. Not a lot. They're 18th in the NFL in 12 personnel, 2 tight ends. So to me, that probably means more nickel this week they're very good at running the ball. But it's not about running the ball. It's about what personnel usage they use.
Sal Capaccio with us. Hoyt, by the way, it'll be curious to see how they want to line him up. I think most expect, he'll play edge the most, but then he could play a bunch of other different things. What do you feel like is second? Like him kicking inside? You just mentioned he has done it where he's a stand-up linebacker, kind of like how Lorenzo Alexander used to play, but I don't know. What's the thing he does the second most, I guess, is a question I have.
It's a good question. I think probably kicking inside and passing downs, yeah. I mean, probably doing that, being able to, you're probably going to want to move them around there to get a little bit more of an interior pass rush, be a little bit, faster off the ball, kind of beat some of the bigger guys. A team that's not threatening to run on a certain play. It's 3rd and 7. You're probably not looking at a run. You kick them inside. Then you can have Greg Rousseau on the outside one and Joey Bosa the outside the other. I think that's probably a package you're probably looking at. But it's a good question. It's his number one is going to be stand-up defensive end. And even then I wonder, what does that look like? Because you do have Bosa, you do have Rousseau, you do have Epinesa, right? How much of a rotation are you having with all 4 of those guys?
Sal Capaccio joining us on the Western Hotline ahead of Bills Panthers on this Football Friday. Have a Twitter pull up, offense, defense, which you're more eager to see a well-played game out of. The defense, of course, getting some new pieces back, and we'll see to what extent. We'll take some calls as well for Sal here. Mark in Coconut Creek. Mark, good morning. You're on with Sal.
Hey, good morning, guys. Happy Football Friday. I've got a question and a comment, and maybe you can shed some light on it. At this stage in his career, Josh being a league MVP, so how much, power does he have to change plays and dictate the game plan a little bit more? Because I just feel like he's third on the totem pole between McDermott and the offensive coordinator. And, I just want to see some fire from him. I want to see him snap on somebody and just show some more energy, because I watch Brady and Rodgers, Mahomes, Peyton Manning. They were in the coach's ear a little bit, and I just don't see McDermott and Josh communicating during the game. Maybe I'm missing something, but
thanks, Mark. I think there's a growing conversation about this, and it's going to happen when you struggle. We have a two bad games, Sal, but people are, maybe you're seeing this too, noticing how when it's on, the camera's on him on the sidelines, kind of just sitting, not talking to anybody. And then Allen this week, the first part of the story was his grandma called and says she wants him to smile. And then he said he's got to get his head out of the sand, lead from the front. And I wonder how you took that. If that kind of lines up with maybe what Mark is saying. Like, is Allen talking about taking a little more ownership here or being a little more vocal? What was your takeaway on what Allen had to say when relaying that story this week?
Yeah, I'll talk about that, and then I'll get to a couple of things he asked, because there was a lot in there. Yeah, I think being more. Remember, what was the saying that we would call Josh low key or something? Or something
He
a couple
said
years ago.
a couple years ago he talked about being low positive, and that was in the
Low positive.
That was in the throes of
Yes.
the everything looks hard in the Dorsey offense,
Yes.
and like we were battling
Yes.
for his brain every single week.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's kind of been a little bit like that, and he's probably Josh can be a really energetic guy, but he's matured, he's older, he goes to work every day, right? It's what he does, and I think what he's saying and the way I took it was, you know what, maybe maybe I need to be a little more energetic, maybe I need to be a little more fiery, and that'll bleed a little bit in everybody, and we can kind of feel ourselves again a little bit better because we've been struggling here. I think that's the way I took it. I don't think what he was saying was I need to start yelling at people, right? Like I don't think, and I think that's what the caller wants. I don't know what that does for anybody, right? Here's the thing. When you say, and a caller says, well, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, well, it's got to be your personality to do it too, right? You can't be fake. When you've been in the league 8 years, you don't run up the sidelines yelling at people. You're not going to start doing it in year 9 and suddenly like, wait a minute, what's going on here, right? Like it's got to be like that. It doesn't mean that he can't be into the game and he can't be super like, oh my God, go up to somebody and say, hey, what are we doing here? What's going on? Caller says, I don't see him talking to Sean McDermott during the game. Well, Sean McDermott's the head coach, and he's also a defensive coach. Joe Brady is the offensive coordinator. He's up in the box. When Josh comes off the field, I try to explain this to people every week who ask me this question, because when you see on TV, what you see on TV is like literally maybe 5% of what's happening on the sidelines. When he comes off the field, the first thing he does is go to the bench and sit down and grab a tablet. The next thing that happens is Ronald Curry comes over and sits with him, next to him, or kneels in front of him, along with Mitch Trubisky. They're all right there together, even Shane Buechele, all of them. And they're looking at the tablet and they're trying to figure out what's the defense doing, what are we doing. In the meantime, if he has to talk to Joe Brady, he can relay and talk to Joe Brady that way. So I think there's a misconception about what's happening on the sidelines and how communication works. Like, it's not like he's not going up to Sean McDermott and yelling at him about what plays to run. Sean McDermott's trying to coach a game, right? That's not what's happening in that moment. And maybe you see that from other coaches and quarterbacks who are more the play callers in those situations.
Yeah, more
but
direct.
that's just not how it works, in even most NFL games.
I'm imagining that like some fans want what? They want remember the video of Tom Brady blowing up with Bill O'Brien on the sideline?
Right.
I mean, one, that's even if you do want that, that's not possible because Joe Brady's up in the booth.
That's right.
Well, all right, but let's kind of remove that, because there's yelling at and then there's firing up and being a cheerleader, because in that answer, Sal, from Alan, is, if nothing else, like an admission or an acknowledgement that he hasn't been that this year. And I guess I would wonder what happened. Like, where has it gone? Because the idea that he's not juiced up and into games, he throws up before every game, and everybody talks about how the energy he plays with when he celebrates, when he flexes on opponents, and McDermott says, I love that swagger. Like, maybe Allen is saying, if we remove the yell at teammates part of it, he's saying he's feeling like he should probably try to get some swagger back, because that's been missing.
And I also think he even said practice, didn't he? He mentioned practice, I think, when he was talking, if I go back and remember. And I'm thinking, I think he's talking about through the week even, not even just in a game, not a game day, right? On game day, there's so much going on. What happened? What's the defense doing? Let's figure this out before we go out for our next series and all that. For sure, you make a really great play, and he does. They all celebrate, and he still does that particular thing. There's two parts to this, which is when positive plays happen and getting really into it and celebrating and being the swagger. And then there's when negative plays happen and people want to see him get on people and yell at somebody. I think after the play where Elijah Moore, that I've referenced a couple times this week, where they miscommunicated, he looked frustrated, right? Like he kind of snapped his chin strap off, right? Like something like that. I think, did we see, and I didn't particularly see him like go to Elijah Moore and say something, and I don't know if he would or he did, or even if he blames him necessarily, right? Whatever it is, maybe he's blaming himself. I'm not sure. Maybe that's an instance where people want to see something like that, and that's in a more of a negative light. I also, though, when he talked this week about it, I took it more even as throughout the week, not just on game day, right? Which is throughout the week being that guy to, hey, maybe this is what we need a little bit more of at practice when we're kind of doing everything that we're doing and scoring and all those kinds of things. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm trying to hit on everything the caller said, because there was a lot in there. And I'm like, I just think that there's a perception of what happens there. And it's not wrong that maybe that people say, I want to see him smile more like the grandma. But man, if you're expecting this guy just to run off the field and start like going up and down the sidelines and yelling at people, that's just not how it works.
Mm-hmm. David in Cleveland is up next. Hey, David. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. I find it lunacy that we're relitigating this whole conversation about wide receiver again. It seems like year after year we're back at the same point, and it's sort of a departure from how Brandon Beane operated prior to Stephon Diggs. When he went out and in that draft with the great wide receivers that came down, Justin Jefferson and so on, and a lot of the draft nicks projected Justin Jefferson to drop to us, and it turns out that was correct at our draft position. But Brandon Beane ignored the draft nicks and said, I'm going to go out and get a difference maker now. And they went out and got Stephon Diggs. And what was Stephon Diggs' trait? An elite separator, a master, a tactician with route running. So now you fast forward to the draft with Ladd McConkey and the draft several years ago, where the Bills went out and took Keon Coleman. It just doesn't make a lot of sense what they did. I mean, what led to Josh Allen's ascension? It was Diggs. And what is Diggs? Again, an elite route runner, fast, but a tactician. What was Ladd McConkey? Same thing. Do the Kansas City Chiefs worry about having a lot of guys sort of similar characteristics? Because I know you guys touched on it earlier, saying that he's basically a Khalil Shakir, and we all know that's not the case. What's Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy and Rishi Rice? They're kind of sort of similar in a lot of ways. The Chiefs don't seem to worry about that. And I think, until Brandon Beane gets back to the basics and looks at and tries to look at what was successful in the past, rather than trying to grasping at straws, Josh Allen is never going to get the help he needs.
Thanks, David, for the phone call.
I do think, by the way, that really quick, before Sal, I turn over you, some of those guys are a little different. McConkey is I think, you want to describe him as a route runner and a technician at that kind of stuff. I think you're right. I don't think Worthy is quite that.
No,
Worthy's pretty good at that stuff, but he's a good player because of his elite speed.
The Chiefs have a couple of raw speed guys.
I don't know. The question there to me sounds like, do the Bills know at this moment that they need that?
Maybe. I took the question as, and Sal, we'll get your thoughts on it. Why don't the Bills value separation the way that they used to? Because it was more than just Diggs. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders, John Brown was speed and separation. Beasley could do a lot of good things. They had a lot of that. And now it seems like, if nothing else, the way they want to build is to have the receiver roles a little bit more defined. And, we talk about Palmer as the one that beats man. And he's kind of the one. Past that, you might even get more from Khalil Shakir or Elijah Moore or Curtis Samuel if you could use them more down the field and tried some more things. I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot there, Sal. But suffice to say that Keon Coleman is under the microscope these days.
Yeah, for sure. When Josh was drafted, I know for sure that a big thought for them was to get guys, if he's not going to be the most accurate quarterback because he wasn't coming out of college, and you have to work on that, and they're going to develop that more, was to get guys with large catch radiuses. You guys remember the first group he worked with, right?
Yeah. Kelvin Benjamin and Andre Holmes.
And I remember thinking, that's not the best idea.
Right. Yeah.
And then they went for
that
separators.
Was the thought.
Yeah.
Right, that was the thought. And then it went more towards, just get guys who are going to get open, and he's going to throw it to them. And they went more to that. That was John Brown. That was Cole Beasley. When Beane makes the trade for Diggs, people can say all they want to this day, oh my God, they could have waited on Justin Jefferson. That's fine. The Bills needed somebody who was established a number one at that time. That was what they needed. I don't think it was the wrong move to get a Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen. Look what happened. And Josh Allen elevated, right, and became an elite quarterback having Stephon Diggs. So that was a great, a thing for him at that time and what the Buffalo Bills needed. I think what happened over the years is, because of Stephon's aura, personality, and I'm not saying that he was a bad teammate or anything like that, but it became clear that, man, when you have a number one receiver that, needs targets here, this quarterback, this offense does not function as well when there's that particular pressure to get him, right? And I think, maybe there's been too much, to me, there's been too much of a lean into let's not have one of those because we don't want to have that happen again. And now maybe you have to go revisit that and say, well, wait a minute. I think we do need one of those, but you got to have the right personality as well.
I just also don't know where anyone would get that offense didn't work. I mean, they finished third multiple times. And on points per game, we did the math yesterday, Sal. Like, they had a year where they had more points per game in those years than they did last year. The Bills like to say last year broke records, and that's in part because there was a 17th game. They did have a higher points per game previously in an Allen offense. So I know that's not necessarily the point you're making, but we know why they kind of went the way they did. They want to be multiple. They want to be able to run the ball and also like kind of win that way and be more difficult from a matchup standpoint. So, hopefully the build that they want, we can see a little more of it this week against Carolina. And, will the downfield passing game come back at any point? We'll find out. I feel like in the building, there's certainly a discussion that they'd like to get it back.
No doubt. I thought about your poll this morning too, which is offense or defense. It's funny. I think I might lean towards I'd rather see the defense kind of step it up and show they can stop the run a little bit and feel good about the two additions coming in, Hoyt and Ogunjobi, and even say, okay, then Max Harrison's coming in, because I actually think even if the offense struggles, I always have faith it'll turn around eventually because they have Josh Allen, right? Like, that's just kind of the way I look at it. Where if you continue to struggle on defense and an Andy Dalton-led offense, by the way, probably you're going to be facing, I think there's still more of a, oh man, this is just going to be what's going to happen all year. I'm not going to keep feeling that about the offense, even if the offense struggles and doesn't score 20 points. I think I'm still going to have it there. Okay, they have Josh Allen. They'll make a move. There'll be something. They'll be okay. They can run the ball. Weather will turn. They'll be fine. I'll probably feel that way even if the offense struggles. I think if the defense struggles with adding in the two guys against Andy Dalton, I'm not going to feel nearly as good about the prospects of the future.
You have a smirk on your face, Joe.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like it's the question of like I've got two scores in my mind right now. What would you rather have? And both, I'll make them both Bills wins, just because everyone can be happy on some level. Would you rather have them win 20-14, or would you rather have them win 41-35?
Most people would say 41-35. I think. Because every year they've come out of a two-game...
Even though 35 against Andy Dalton would look like...
Every year they've come out of a two-game losing streak and they've kind of got back on track, it's because they start scoring like 35 points.
Right.
I think the answer to me, Joe, unfortunately, and I know that you can't do this, would be how you get to the high points, because is it end of the game garbage time? You know what I mean? But if Andy Dalton's lighting up their defense, I'm not going to feel that good about it. And if Josh Allen and the offense can't score, I won't feel as good, but I'll still believe. Look at the Carolina Panthers defense is pretty good, actually. Look at their numbers.
It's much improved this year. It is. I thought,
right?
I thought when Joe, you got that smirk on your face, I thought the question you were going to ask was some version of like, should I root for the offense to struggle so they're more inclined to make a move to make it better?
I'm not doing that. I'm not rooting for the offense to tank.
I've seen that smirk before. I thought,
no.
I've had that smirk before. All right, thank you, Sal.
You got it, guys. I'll have Sean McDermott on, and probably it looks like we're going to be a little after 11 a.m. today, so we can get the injury report and designations. But you never know. The production meetings, things like that, always going on a Friday, but it looks like a little after 11 a.m.
Very good. Sal's got the Extra Point Show at 10 o'clock. Thanks, Sal.